there's been a major development in the Russian war on Ukraine. President Donald Trump says a meeting between the presidents of Ukraine and Russia is being arranged. Now, this follows a face-to-face at the Oval Office today between President Zelenskyy and other prominent European leaders. CBC's Ashley Burke has been following the story closely for us all day, and she joins us now from Washington. So, Ashley, Zelenskyy just spoke a few moments ago outside of the White House. What did he have to say?
Yeah, he spoke just outside the gates of the White House tonight and said that he had a long discussion with Donald Trump over a map in the Oval Office that showed Russian-captured territories in Ukraine. President Zelenskyy said that he argued about the percentage on the map, and he said that it's not possible that that much territory had been taken over, but also said that he had a warm and meaningful conversation with Donald Trump and included that he shouldn't have any conditions tied to a meeting with Russia. Trump said that he spoke to Vladimir Putin today and said he's already working on getting both of those leaders at a table together. And take a listen to what Ukraine's leader said about that.
We don't have any date. We don't have any date. We just confirmed after this productive meeting with the president and then with all our colleagues, with the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace.
Now, Trump posted on Truth Social tonight that during the meeting, we discussed security guarantees for Ukraine, which guarantees would be provided by various European countries with coordination with the United States of America. He also said everyone is very happy about the possibility of peace for Russia, Ukraine. He called it a very good early step for the war that has been going on for almost 4 years. But Finland's leader tonight says that while they agreed on security guarantees for Ukraine, the European leaders, there is nothing concrete yet from the U.S. about what role it will play, and said that the details are expected to be ironed out in the next week or so.
Ashley, when we watch these meetings and what comes out of these meetings with President Trump and other major leaders, it's often about tone. And so there has been a shift in the tone today. Talk to us about that.
Natasha, it was really striking how much warmer the tone was. President Zelenskyy really appeared to be doing everything he can to try and ensure these talks today didn't go off the rails like last time. In February, when he visited the White House, it was a disaster. He was publicly berated and called ungrateful. So today we saw him make some changes. He wore a suit instead of his usual military attire. He arrived with a delegation of some of the most powerful European leaders to back him up. And he repeatedly thanked Donald Trump for all that he's done, including to help stop the war. But Germany's chancellor made it clear to Trump what the Europeans were asking for, and it's a ceasefire. Take a listen.
To be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire, the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that, and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on.
Well, we're going to let the president go over and talk to the president, and we'll see how that works out. And if we can do that, I will say, and again, I say it, in the 6 wars that I've settled, I haven't had a ceasefire.
Now, Trump seemed to evade that European push for a ceasefire. In the past, he had said it was a goal, but after his meeting with Putin in Alaska, coming out of that, he didn't reach that agreement, and now is making it seem like it's less of a priority for him. But Trump did keep his promise for NATO-like security guarantees pretty vague today. We didn't hear any details, but he said he believes if these talks do continue between them, like all 3 leaders, that there is a reasonable chance of ending the war. Germany's leader said tonight that Putin and Zelenskyy are expected to meet in the next 2 weeks.
CBC's Ashley Burke in Washington. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, let's dig deeper into this story. And for that, we've invited to the show Michael Byers, who is a professor of global politics and international law at the University of British Columbia. Michael, thank you so much for making time for us.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
So, sir, we just heard my colleague Ashley report that the anticipated move is Zelensky and Putin are meant to meet within 2 weeks. What is the reality of this possibility? What would happen at such a meeting, to the best of your knowledge?
Well, President Zelensky has been looking for a meeting with Vladimir Putin for some months now. In fact, just 2 months ago, he was in Istanbul and Russian negotiators were due to arrive. And President Zelensky said that he hoped that President Putin would be part of that delegation. What's been very strange up to this point is that President Donald Trump has been negotiating with President Putin without President Zelensky being there, even though Ukraine is a necessary participant in any peace deal. So this is good, I think, from the perspective of Ukraine, face-to-face negotiations between the two leaders who matter most.
We know from the Ukrainian perspective, they don't want to give up any more territory. And the Russians absolutely want to hold on to the territory they've gained so far, roughly a fifth to a quarter of what is Ukraine right now is partially under Russian control. Are we at a stage in the war where Zelensky would agree to giving up that territory?
Well, let's be clear that the acquisition of territory by military force is categorically prohibited under international law. This aggression by Russia is a clear violation of the United Nations Charter. That being said, it is possible with Ukraine's consent to give up some of its own sovereign territory. So we'll see what happens during the negotiations. It's also worth remembering that we're not just talking about the Donbass, that Russia illegally annexed Crimea in 2014. So it may be that the ultimate compromise is that Russia gets to keep Crimea, but withdraws from the Donbass. There's so much we don't know right now, but again, it is up to Ukraine to decide what price it is willing to pay for peace.
And part of the issue that you bring up is that Russia would be in violation of international law, but who is enforcing that law is part of the problem, and whether Putin cares at all is an ongoing issue. So to that point, we know the European leaders care deeply about how Russia moves forward with this. Where do you think they are right now when so little is clear and so little is guaranteed in terms of security for Europe?
Well, the first thing to say is that Canada and European countries have spent hundreds of billions of dollars enforcing international law by supporting Ukraine in its fight against Russia. So everything that we've done to support Ukraine is supporting international law, even though Russia is still violating that law. But what does Europe want? Europe wants stability, it wants certainty. It also wants to make sure that Russia is not rewarded for its aggression, because a European country within NATO could be the next target if Russia is allowed to win as a result of its illegal annexation of Crimea and 2022 invasion.
Let me talk about the United States and specifically President Trump. He's been very eager to move forward to get some kind of deal. Now, he's shifted away from a ceasefire conversation. He just wants to get those two presidents in a room. But does President Trump understand what's at stake? I ask that because we've heard him refer to this as a real estate deal. For him, it's just geography moving from one person's ownership to another. Does he understand how deep the stakes are for other nations?
Well, I don't pretend to understand what goes on inside Donald Trump's head, but I can say that he has been very inconsistent, almost unstable, with regards to this issue. Just last week, he promised European leaders that he would push for a ceasefire and that if Vladimir Putin would not agree to a ceasefire, there would be, quote, serious consequences. And then the moment that he met with Vladimir Putin in Anchorage, Alaska, he flipped 180 degrees on that issue. This makes it very difficult to deal with Donald Trump in this situation. European leaders went to Washington today to make sure that the meeting with President Zelensky did not go off the rails, that there could be some progress here, despite the flip-flopping of Donald Trump on key issues like the ceasefire.
Okay, Michael Byers, thank you so much for making time for us today. Very good to speak to you.
You're most welcome. Thank you.